Welcome, folks, to The Uncommon Good with Bo Bonner and Dr. Bud Marr. Every week, diving deep into the truth of Catholic social teaching and restoring all things in Christ.
The Uncommon Good is on the air. I'm Bo Bonner. And I'm Dr. Bud Marr. That's not actually Bud Marr. That's just my best impression of him. Folks, Bud will be joining us as soon as he can. We'll get him on. He's not in studio, but he'll be joining us as soon as he can. This is The Uncommon Good. Bo Bonner and Dr. Bud Marr joining you this Wednesday. Thank you for listening to the show. We are here in downtown Des Moines, Iowa. Not downtown Des Moines, Iowa. In the middle of Iowa in Des Moines. Broadcasting out to you from Iowa Catholic Radio Studios. It's wonderful to be with you. I am the Senior Advisor for Mission Initiatives and the Director of the Center for Human Flourishing out at Mercy College of Health Sciences. Bud Marr, Dr. Bud Marr, Associate Provost there as well. We want to thank Mercy College for underwriting our show, mchs.edu. There's all sorts of exciting things that happen at Mercy on the forefront of making sure that we embody the Sisters of Mercy's spirit as we train medical professionals to go out and help with the healing ministry that we are called to do. mchs.edu to go view all of those programs. But I'm going to put a big pitch here right now about the Center for Human Flourishing. Like I said, I'm the director there, and I want to make sure that you guys are well aware that we have something in the offering for you all to participate in today. So in general, the center's website is mchs.edu/flourish, Flourish. But here in town and on the show today, we have Dr. Charles Camosy, who is our inaugural research fellow for the Center for Human Flourishing. Now, the reason this is important is because not only is he talking about something very timely, but it's the inaugural fellow setting the stage about the sort of research that we hope to do at the Center for Human Flourishing. There's all sorts of research that colleges do, and it's wonderful that we get to participate that. But in particular, the sort of knowledge we hope to produce here at Mercy College is hopefully reflective of the spirit of the Sisters of Mercy. And everything they did had to do with human flourishing. Primarily, they, of course, either started hospitals or places for medical care or colleges and schools. And so both of those concern not only with the flourishing of the body, of the mind, but the spirit as well. And so at the Center for Human Flourishing, we ask our research fellows to embody, use, dig into the well of the research that they do and apply it to a practical case in the hopes that we are able to make changes on the ground, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing today at 6 o'clock. So today's April 6th, 6 o'clock, here in downtown Des Moines at the Pastoral Center. And I just want to make sure you know that's the Pastoral Center, not Mercy College. Dr. Charlie Camosy is going to be giving his talk, The Abandoned Generation, Pandemic Failures in Elder Care. A very timely and important topic. We're going to preview that some today because we have Dr. Camosy in the studio, and it sounds like to me, graces of all graces, we actually have Bud joining us as well. Bud, are you there?
Hello. I feel like someone was getting in the way of me being on the show this morning.
So
probably myself.
Well, right. Like either demonic influence or Bud was causing some initial issues, but we have you here. We got a minute before we hit the first break. You ready to roll? Talking with Charlie today in studio.
Yeah, I'm sure you've already plugged the event tonight, but I would reinforce whatever you said. I know I've benefited greatly from Dr. Camosy's writings, and I know that, like with our students, we've also had great discussions about a few of his texts.
Absolutely. So when we get back from the break, we will talk with Dr. Charlie Camosy. But like I said, the Center for Human Flourishing, mchs.edu/flourish. You can watch live stream of the event if you can't make it in person. So go to mchs.edu/flourish and register to watch the live stream. But it will also be in person here in Des Moines, downtown at the Pastoral Center, 6 o'clock. Dr. Camosy. And like one more time, let me say, The Abandoned Generation, Pandemic Failures in Elder Care. We hope as many of you are able to make it as you can. This is The Uncommon Good. Bo Bonner and Dr. Bud Marr. Stick around, and right after this break, we'll be talking with Dr. Charlie Camosy himself. This is The Uncommon Good, and we'll be back right after this.
At Intervisions Healthcare, we see patients with unplanned pregnancies from ages 12 to 43. An unplanned pregnancy is traumatic at any age. For that reason, we specialize in educating, encouraging, and empowering vulnerable and at-risk mothers facing an unexpected pregnancy with the medical information and services necessary for them to make an informed decision. For more information on the free medical services at Intervisions Healthcare or to support our mission or become a volunteer, visit ivhcare.org.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Marr Security, a Catholic-owned family business providing security solutions for homes and businesses since 1953. PerMarSecurity.com, 515-244-5660.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry, including the St. Sarah Club of Des Moines and the Sarah Club of Council Bluffs. Sarah is an apostolate of the Worldwide Catholic Church dedicated to fostering and supporting priesthood and religious vocations. Sarahans strive to accomplish their mission through prayer, fellowship, and service to the bishop, priests, sisters, and all in religious formation, and in doing so to increase their own holiness. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org. Thank you, Sarahans, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Iowa Catholic Radio would like to thank our business partner, Fast Signs. Learn more about their signs, digital signs, banners, and other products and services at fastsigns.com or 515-224-1210.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Dr. David Ball from Des Moines Eye Surgeons, your total eye care specialist specializing in cataracts and glaucoma care. Des Moines Eye Surgeons, 515-255-3546, dmisurgeons.com. Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Construction Professionals. Construction Professionals does remodeling and new construction. Construction Professionals is a Catholic family business built on a strong foundation. CPCustomHomes.com. Thank you, Construction Professionals, for supporting Iowa Catholic Radio.
Back with the Uncommon Good. Bo Bonner and Dr. Bud Marr joining you this Wednesday. Thank you for listening to the show. Today in studio, we have a very special guest, a all-star on the Uncommon Good. He's been with us multiple times before. Today he is in town because tonight at 6 o'clock at the Pastoral Center here in downtown Des Moines, he is our inaugural research fellow for the Center for Human Flourishing. The talk he's going to give is The Abandoned Generation, Pandemic Failures in Elder Care. You can either make it live, or if you'd like to watch the live stream, please go to mchs.edu/flourish to register to watch the live stream. Charlie, thank you for joining us in the studio.
Bo, it is wonderful to be here with you in studio.
Now, I, of course, am very interested in introducing you as our inaugural research fellow, something we're very proud and honored for you to be. But before we get started, if you don't mind, can you throw out some other places people can find your writing, find some of the things that are reflective of your deeper interests and research interests?
Well, I mean, maybe the easiest place is just to go to Charles Camosy, CAMOSY.com, and it's got a lot of things there. Also, my Twitter account, which I use way too much in an unhealthy way, is at @CCamosy. Those are probably the two easiest places to go to find what I'm up to. But the talk I'll be giving tonight, which I'm very excited, I'm put the finishing touches on it this morning over breakfast in the way too nice hotel you set me up with, is really based on my previous two books, which might be of interest. I wrote a book in 2019 called Resisting Throwaway Culture, which we'll probably talk about throwaway culture a little bit today. And then I wrote a book that came out this past summer called Losing Our Dignity, How Secularized Medicine is Undermining Fundamental Human Equality. And maybe thinking of those two books together will be at the heart of what I'll be talking about tonight when it comes to the crisis of elder care.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things with the Center for Human Flourishing that we were hoping to get at is precisely this idea that, you know, scholars do research and produce knowledge. We teach, but also there's the production of knowledge aspect that we hope to be able to do. And, you know, a lot of people do research, and we don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel, that a lot of people are doing high-level research, and that's good for them to do. But to reflect the spirit of the Sisters of Mercy, the Center for Human Flourishing hopes to do what Aristotle calls phronesis, practical wisdom. What a practically wise way scholars like you utilize your research to say changes on the ground that can have immediate benefit to humans flourishing. So when we think of those two books, and let's start with the idea of throwaway culture, something penned by Pope Francis. Why is it important for us to, or maybe what are some rudimentary things we need to know about the concept of throwaway culture, precisely to talk about this idea of humans flourishing on the ground?
Well, I'm a big fan of Pope St. John Paul II, as many of us are, I imagine. And he used this very now well-known phrase, culture of death, to describe kind of what's going on with, especially, but not only the developed West, the consumerist West. And I think that's helpful to a certain extent. But I think a lot of the problems that especially, but not only the pro-life movement faces, really aren't related to people or institutions aiming at the death of others, though in certain cases that is certainly what's going on. In many other cases, it's a more complicated picture, I think. And the phrase throwaway culture, I think, really gets at it a little more precisely. For instance, when a desperately impoverished woman is being threatened by her boyfriend physically to have an abortion, it is a culture of death, but it's also a kind of a different thing going on right there. We think of both the woman in that case and the baby as part of this. I at least do, and Pope Francis does, as part of a throwaway culture, which sees not only the kind of goods we consume and the gifts of the earth that God has given us as part of this throwaway culture, but literally people, human beings, as being able to be thingified and then discarded and thrown away. And when you apply that to medicine in particular, and healthcare in particular, you come up with just really, really difficult examples. In particular, not just abortion, not just euthanasia, but how we treat our elderly. And especially, I have a particular focus in my last book on those with later stage dementia. So this is not, it is some academic concept you could talk about, but it is also something that when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of practicing healthcare has really practical implications.
Dr. Camosy, reading about the state of elder care in the United States today can be a pretty harrowing study. And I think the pandemic and sort of the way we had to deal with that shined a light on some of these issues that have probably been longstanding. How did a country like America, with so much in the way of resources, get to the point where elder care is in the state that it is today?
Yeah, for all our strengths, when it comes to human dignity, I don't want to downplay those. In some ways, the United States can be that shining city on a hill when it comes to thinking about inherent dignity of all and the progress we've made on that. There's been this focus from our very beginnings on youth and vitality and your ability to be a productive member of society. That has pushed us in these directions in particular. I think also our more recent problems when it comes to thinking about the ties that bind when it comes to family and extended family, the precipitous drop in our the rate at which we have children and marry at all and have families and children at all is a major part of this. And that's led to, as the subtext of your question I think is very clear, a kind of throwaway culture when it comes to our elderly, right? They don't really fit into this model of what we value in terms of being a productive member of society. In fact, they're anything but, right? They're now clearly a net burden, to use a pretty offensive way of describing it. And so and then the family part is really important to mention here too, because now instead of taking these our beloved elderly into our homes and caring for them ourselves, we kind of think about, well, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, well, where am I going to flourish best? I'll move there. I'll move from Wisconsin, where I grew up, to New York City to take a job, and then I'll let my parents figure it out for themselves, right? And so, what that has meant, practically speaking, is that we essentially warehouse our elderly away from polite society, which is how throwaway culture works, of course. And in many cases, it's a place for them just simply to be alone and die. And that's where we find ourselves. And it's a crisis now. But as I'll talk about tonight, in the next 20 to 30 years, it's going to be beyond what we can possibly imagine in terms of the crisis we're going to have to face.
And in terms of flourishing, and of course, like I have vested interest to keep coming back to that word, but I think there's a way in which something we do well works against a more holistic understanding of flourishing. So there's a way in which we go, man, we keep people alive 88, 90, right? So if we just look at sort of the baseline stats, we go, well, they're alive, like grandma's alive. But that sort of flattens a much more complex picture about what we must mean if we're going to talk about flourishing in a way that really has meaning beyond just the sort of sheer "they're alive, isn't that good enough?"
That's right. And let's be clear, there are some elder care institutions which do help our elders flourish, and assisted living contexts in which our elders flourish. And so we do have models for doing this well. However, as I mentioned just a moment ago, the vast majority of institutions that we have really don't allow them to flourish along the lines that you just described. In fact, they're so understaffed, they're so without resources, the necessary resources to help this population flourish, that as you and I were talking about on our ride over here, that we will often give them antipsychotic drugs in a kind of chemical straitjacket so they can't even move, so they're kept docile and unable to lead anything remotely like a flourishing life. Incidentally, it also doubles their chances of death. So when you put all this together, you can see not only is it not anything remotely like flourishing, it's a classic example of throwaway culture.
Well, folks, whenever we talk on shows before we have events, we don't want to. There's the point that I'm getting at is there's so much more to come here about, because this is not only a wide topic, but it's a very thick topic, as it were. There's so much to untangle to get at why we are where we're at, and precisely what we hope to do with having Charlie be the inaugural research fellows to give an example of everything we hope to be doing in the future, whatever the topic might be, which is to say, it's one thing to say, here's the problem, but what are the ways that we're going to sort of think through the thick knots, that was a lot of TH sounds, that this problem has tied us in. It's not Gordian knots, it's not saying that it's an impossible one to undo, but it is certainly one that requires us to be prophetic in a way that perhaps we have not quite yet stepped up to the plate. So just one more time to remind everybody what's going on. Dr. Charlie Camosy, our inaugural research fellow for the Center for Human Flourishing, will be speaking tonight, April 6th at 6 o'clock at the Pastoral Center in downtown Des Moines. You're all invited. There are no pandemic restrictions anymore, so praise God for that. So make sure to come down if you can. If you can't, you can join us by live stream at mchs.edu/flourish. If you hit current events or something like this, there's a place to register to watch the live stream. His talk is The Abandoned Generation, Pandemic Failures in Elder Care. So like I said, Dr. Charlie Camosy, you will want to make sure to either attend or watch live. This is The Uncommon Good. Bo Bonner and Dr. Bud Marr. Stick around and we'll be back right after this.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Catholic Charities, where exceptional service is a hallmark in caring for those with essential needs, including food pantry, professional counseling, emergency family shelter, and refugee services. CatholicCharitiesDM.org.
Iowa Catholic Radio would like to welcome our newest business underwriter, Fitness by Design, your neighborhood fitness studio located at 4715 Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Online, fitnessbydesigndm.com. Thank you, Bar Mendoza, Fitness by Design, for supporting the Iowa Catholic Radio Network.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Skeffington's Formal Wear, in business since 1951, with locations in Des Moines, West Des Moines, Coralville, and Ankeny. Skeffington's Formal Wear, fitting you for life celebrations. Online at skeffingtons.com.
St. Vincent de Paul helps so many people.
You're right, Zoe. St. Vincent de Paul Executive Director Steve Havman here. We are serving over 32,000 local residents with food, clothing, furniture, and financial assistance annually. We invite you to learn more about all of our life-changing programs that positively impact so many Iowans by simply Googling St. Vincent de Paul of Des Moines. Our mission is to help those in need become self-sufficient through education, community connectedness, and unconditional support. Help us, help others.
Even kids!
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by Paul Martin and Paul Mitchell, owners of Imogene Ingredients. Imogene Ingredients supply specialized feed ingredients for livestock and pet diets to improve maternal and young animal health in both conventional and organic production.
Thank you, Caldwell Parish, for underwriting Iowa Catholic Radio. Conform to the wishes of the deceased and to Catholic liturgical burial traditions. Caldwell Parish Funeral Home, Des Moines' only Catholic-owned and operated funeral home. CaldwellParish.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Golden Rule Heating and Cooling. Since 1999, Golden Rule Heating and Cooling has been supporting customers with their rules to live by: respect, understanding, loyalty, expertise, and service. GoldenRulePHC.com.
Back with the Uncommon Good. Bob Honor and Dr. Bud Marr joining you this Wednesday. Thank you for listening to the show. We have in studio our inaugural research fellow for the Center for Human Flourishing, Dr. Charlie Camosy. April 6th tonight at 6 o'clock, The Abandoned Generation, Pandemic Failures in Elder Care. You can go to mchs.edu/flourish to register to watch a live stream. And then if you are, for instance, listening to this show on podcast or replay, and you missed it because it's in the past and there's no time travel yet, you can make sure to go to mchs.edu/flourish, and we will have the whole talk up there as soon as we are able to. Bud, throwing it over to you for a question for Charlie.
When we think about these matters, I'll be honest for myself, it can feel almost insurmountable, and I just sort of don't know where to begin. But the other side of that, I think, is there are times historically where the Catholic Church offered a profound witness to the gospel by stepping up when human dignity was being obscured. Dr. Camosy, I'm curious, I know we'll get into this some this evening at the talk, but drawing upon Catholic social teaching, in what ways can Catholics see this as a unique opportunity and not simply as an insurmountable crisis?
Yeah, but I'll be talking more about this tonight and on the live stream and the podcast. But this is actually, as you suggest, just a tremendous opportunity for us to be the church, us as church, to be what we've been in the past. There's actually some really strong evidence that the early church in particular, because of how it handled medical emergencies like this, this is part of the reason why it grew from a kind of weird Jewish sect into the kind of thing that Constantine had to take seriously, and even being at a place like an institution that the Sisters of Mercy built, being as part of that group, as I'm happy to be now as this inaugural fellow, indicates that it wasn't. We don't have to go back to the ancient church for examples of where we stood up as church to address these kinds of things. In fact, if we go back all the way to the previous pandemic here in the 20s in the United States, it's just so interesting to see how time and time again it was Catholic institutions and Catholic women religious in particular who stood up to do that. And so we have the opportunity to do it again. Again, the numbers of people with late-stage dementia especially are going to double in the next 20 years, triple in the next 30 years. We're on the verge. This is an absolute catastrophe. And a big part of what I'll be talking about tonight is how the institutional church can in fact step up as we have in the past.
Well, and then real quick, we're getting ready to get to the end here of the show, but one more book I want to plug, one you co-authored and has everything to do with what we're talking about, Mercy College. So your book on bioethics for nurses, can you talk about that real quick? Because I think that one speaks to this point about the history of nursing and sisters and what that means, hopefully, for us in the future.
Yeah, I think you can make a strong argument that it was, in fact, Catholic women religious and specifically the Sisters of Mercy, which invented modern nursing. So, right, Nightingale gets all the credit, but she actually learned her trade from Catholic Sisters of Mercy. And so again, as I wrote in that book that's coming out this summer, and as I will be talking about tonight, this is our heritage. This is who we are, and it's time for us to step up.
Absolutely. So one more time, The Abandoned Generation, Pandemic Failures in Elder Care, Dr. Charlie Camosy, our inaugural research fellow for the Center for Human Flourishing, April 6th, that's today, 6 p.m. If you can't make it in person at the Pastoral Center downtown here in Des Moines, you can go to mchs.edu/flourish to register to watch the live stream, and then we will have that up on the Human Flourishing website, mchs.edu/flourish, once we get that recorded, so that people can see that. This is the Uncommon Good. May Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, reign in our hearts, our families, city, state, nation, world, solar system, galaxy, the whole kit and caboodle. This is the Uncommon Good, and we'll be back next week. But if folks want to join us in the prayer life here at Iowa Catholic Radio, what are the ways they can do so?
Yeah, please do join praying with us. We broadcast the Rosary at 10 a.m. in each day. And then also at 6 earlier in the day, 6 a.m., and then the Divine Mercy Chapel at 2:55 in the afternoon. You can also pray the rosary anytime, anywhere using the Iowa Catholic Radio app.
And of course, you can look at what's going on here at Iowa Catholic Radio, first of all, by doing iowacatholicradio.com and all of the other myriad social media that we are broadcasting through. The Eucharistic Miracles of the World display can be viewed at Holy Spirit Parish in Creston through April 19th. Steve Ray, Born Again, Faith Alone, What Must I Do to Be Saved, Thursday, April 7th, 6 p.m. at St. Francis of Assisi Parish. That's coming up very soon. Also something up Friday, April 8th at noon, the Man Up West Power Lunch at St. Francis of Assisi Parish in West Des Moines. Father PJ is going to do that talk, so that will, of course, have all of the good Irish greatness that Father McManus throws into everything he does. Also, Defending the Eucharist, Steve Ray, Friday, April 8th, 6 p.m. at Holy Spirit Parish in Creston. We have a ladies' luncheon Thursday, April 21st, and then, of course, we have summer events as well. You can find all that out at iowacatholicradio.com, where you can listen live, donate. We covet your prayers, your volunteer hours, but also material support through donation helps us so much. We thank you for all of those donations. One more time to plug mchs.edu/flourish, the Center for Human Flourishing, Dr. Charlie Camosy, Research Fellow, the inaugural one, today, April 6th at 6 p.m. at the Pastoral Center downtown Des Moines. But also you can register to watch the live stream at mchs.edu/flourish. And also, eventually, this recording will be up there as well. Again, this is The Uncommon Good. For Bud Marr over there in Comrex land, Dr. Charlie Camosy here in the studio. Thank you all so much, and we will see you all next week.
The Uncommon Good with Bo Bonner and Dr. Bud Marr is heard every week on wonderful Catholic stations like this one, and anytime on podcast. Just search for The Uncommon Good.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and The Uncommon Good provided by Mercy College of Health Sciences. Learn more at mchs.edu.